Hey everybody, and welcome if you're new to the channel of your favorite or soon-to-be favorite bookworm twink, Supreme. So today I am going to be doing the most chaotic video I have ever filmed, and this is a bar higher than my Summerween vlog, in which I trimmed 2 hours into 20 minutes. Like, pat on the back. That's how annoying I am. Like, I can speak for 2 hours and only 22 minutes of it has substance. The rest of it is just me being a fucking annoying bitch. Anywho, today we are going to be doing a video that I literally 30 minutes ago decided that I was going to do today, and that is me telling you about the books I read last month. I should have put this video out 20 days ago because it is currently July the 22nd, so this video should have gone up a long time ago, but I fucking hate doing wrap-ups. I read ebooks, I listen to audiobooks. I don't have a giant bookshelf behind me, as you can see, so I can't just hold the book up and be like, I read this, I read that. No, I have to physically put the picture in the video and it takes fucking forever and I just hate doing it, but it has to be done. It has to be done. And I will do it right now. So I'm going to be talking about the books I read in June, and it was a pretty decent reading month. I'm in literal physical pain for two stupid reasons. The first reason being was that a couple days ago, I tried doing deadlifts. I don't know if my form was correct, so my lower back was killing me the next day, and so were my hamstrings. And then the following day, I was in the mood to dance, so I did this dance cardio from YouTube, and I am not a dancer. Like, I am awkward at walking. Like, if you see me walking down the street, I look like an ostrich on drugs. So, so imagine me having to follow choreography. It was really bad, and I'm pretty sure I pulled like 5 muscles at least, so I literally am in pain. Okay, so the first book I read last month was The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey, and I gave this book 3 stars. I liked most of it, but it just felt very derivative, because although this must have been original when it came out, reading it now after having seen mountains of YA movie adaptations and having read many of the book counterparts, this just felt like something I've seen before, and it just... The rating I'm giving it isn't the book's fault, but my rating is based entirely on what the book meant to me, and this book just didn't really mean much to me, to be honest, but it was good. I will happily acknowledge that it was good. For those of you who don't know the story, we follow 2 young people, because what YA adaptation is complete without teenagers taking down a tyrannical government, or in this case, alien military. We follow a young girl named Cassie, and we follow a young man named Ben, and we basically follow them on their separate journeys, which, unbeknownst to them, are about to converge as they try to escape and hopefully take down this oppressive alien regime. Now, it's called The Fifth Wave because each step the aliens took to take over the world was in waves. Like, the first wave, I think, was blackouts, and then diseases, and then floods. And so while Ben is enlisted in this military camp to take down the aliens, which they refer to as the others, Cassie is elsewhere trying to find her brother. I did think Cassie was very annoying. Like, I found her to be a bit of a whiny bitch, but I guess I can see where she was coming from, and she does improve toward the end of the story. I thought that Ben's story was a lot more interesting, specifically because his relationship with other teen soldiers, how they're coping with the trauma of having aliens invading the world, is really compelling. Will I be reading the sequels? No. No, it's not gonna happen. What I read after was Loveless by Alice Oseman, and oh my gosh, I gave this book 4 stars. I loved it so much. The only reason I docked 1 star down is because I thought it was quite long, and the story did seem to get a bit repetitive in the middle. So we follow this young woman named Georgia, and we learn right on the opening scene of the book, which I thought was very well done, that she has never been in love, has never kissed anybody, and has never had a crush, but she's obsessed with fanfic, and specifically romantic fanfic, and she's very much interested in the idea of love and finding love one day, but every chance she gets to potentially pursue a relationship with somebody or do something vaguely romantic, she instantly feels sick, and it just feels wrong in her heart and soul and body. And we basically follow her and her friends Pip and Jason as they navigate university life. And this book is apparently, based on what I've seen on Bookstagram, based on what I've seen on other people's videos on BookTube, this book is apparently like the book to go to if you want to understand what it's like to be asexual. Now, I have never read a book from an asexual point of view before, and I was very interested in educating myself, and I learned so much about this. And even though I don't identify that way, I think so much of what Georgia went through was just so relatable to me. It had a lot to do with, you know, when she would be put in social events and she found it really hard to be in social events, and just, you know, it's hard to make friends, and I just found that to be so relatable, because the way I thrive in friendship is when I meet someone in a small group. But if I'm put in like a social situation with many people, I just can't do it. Like I have crippling major social anxiety, and I just don't like crowds, don't like tons of people. Just not my thing. I also really liked her friend Rooney, and I just think that if you were to look in a dictionary and search for the word poignant, Alice Oseman's face should be right there beside it, because this person is an expert. Between Loveless and Radio Silence and all the Heartstopper volumes so far, Alice Oseman is an author who has mastered the art of poignancy. Every story, no matter how different I am from the protagonist, makes me feel so seen as a person. Alice is so wholesome and so sweet and empathetic and inclusive, and even though Loveless focuses on an asexual protagonist, you have people of all different genders and sexual orientations in that book, and it just beautiful, beautiful. Which leads me to my next book, and that is Heartstopper Volume 4. Now, I really can't divulge much of what the plot of this book is, but I can tell you that I did read it for a reading blog. This reading blog, I'm gonna link it down below. Now, this volume takes place after the Europe trip. It was just perfect. I gave this 5 stars. It was just, I've given every single Heartstopper volume 5 stars, and I just really don't have much else to say about this amazing piece of art that I haven't already said on this channel. It is beautiful, it is sweet, it's cuddly, it is smiles, it is candy canes and rainbows, but also has very important dark topics that need to be addressed, and this volume does get darker than the other ones do, specifically with a certain thing that Charlie is going through. But yes, look at my blog if you want more in-depth thoughts on this. It's just beautiful and amazing and fantastic. So the book I read after is Lost Girls in Love Hotels by Catherine Harenhan, and in this book we follow a woman named Margaret, and she is working in Japan. I think she's working as somebody who trains Japanese stewardesses to speak English, and this book doesn't really have much of a plot. We just basically follow her as she meanders listlessly through the streets of Tokyo, going to love hotels and watching her various drunken escapades and nights out with men. And we learn about her backstory, we learn about her troubled relationship with her brother and her parents. I honestly don't really know how I feel about this book, because although it left me feeling cold at the end, the author does base this from personal experience. Like, this isn't autobiographical, but I read this interview from the author where she mentions that parts of this book were taken from personal experiences from her, and the story as a whole does read as something very intimate and keenly observed. But as I said, this isn't really a plot book. Like, this does feel like a bunch of vignettes and scenes about her life that were just put together. There's no clear 3-act structure beyond that, so it was quite hard to get through. I didn't dislike it, but I was very bored, and it was just really repetitive, and maybe that's the point. Like, every single negative critique I had about this book had me asking the question, maybe that's the point. Maybe she wanted to show us how this life and how this protagonist's choices were ultimately things that made her feel numb rather than fulfilled. Like, these fleeting joys that she defined her entire life with, or that she used as a distraction from the pain she felt from her previous life or her upbringing, were things that ultimately made her feel numb and devoid of any meaning and bored and ennui, very French. And because it's set in Japan, there's like a lot of lost in translation vibes. I'm fluctuating between a 3-star and a 3.5 star. I didn't enjoy myself, but I can't necessarily say it was a bad experience that I had, because I thought about it a lot and still do think about it. The next book I read is a book that I wanted to love so bad. Oh my gosh. The Maidens by Alex Michaelides was, I read this book for a reading blog, and honestly I don't remember anything that happened in the book beyond the main premise. I believe we follow a woman named Mariana, and she goes to this school to investigate murders that are happening, And this is just, The Silent Patient was a 5-star read, and this was a 2-star read at best. It was just so cliched. The twist at the end of The Silent Patient was one of the smartest twists I have ever read, but the twist at the end of this was just ludicrous. It didn't shock me, it just had me like slapping my face to my palm and just like, what the fuck did I spend all this time reading this? Literally, this book was so unmemorable. Like, I literally don't have any coherent thoughts in my head. Here, I vlogged it, so I'm gonna link the blog down below, and those are my thoughts. My head is empty. Like, if this book was a person and I was a journalist and I had to interview them for something, I wouldn't have anything to ask. Yeah, it was that uninteresting, and it left me with nothing, honestly. The next book, however, was a trip and a half. So I wanted to diversify my reading tastes, diversify my genres. So that genre I decided to explore is porn. And for that, I read this book called A Lesson in Thorns by Sierra Simone. I didn't really know much about this book going in, and frankly, the plot sounded like a thriller. So I'm just gonna describe this plot for you. So we follow this woman named Poe, and her mom goes missing, and she used to go to this house when she was a kid, and it's this giant mansion called Thorn Chapel, and for some reason she was banned from going back to that house, but then she receives a letter from that house basically indicating that her mom could potentially be there, and if she were to go back, she would be able to discover what happened to her mom. So she goes back to Thornhill, the mansion, as someone who takes on this job as someone who's gonna archive the books in their library or some bullshit like that. And you think that this is gonna be a mystery where she looks for what happens to her mom, but the second she gets there, she realizes that the house is populated with attractive people with British accents, and for the rest of the book she pretty much forgets about the mom. So I actually enjoyed this book. Like, this book was really fun. I liked the story. It progressed pretty fast, if you know what I mean, if you catch my drift. And it wasn't all, you know, erotica. There was actual tension and build-up. And the reason I remember liking this so much was because I've tried to read books from this genre before. I read the 50 Shades books, and I read the fucking something Sleeping Beauty by Anne Rice. And those books were just barely any plot and just fucking. This book, however, actually had like things I could sink my teeth into. It actually had foreplay. Like, you know, it wasn't just like straight up this the whole time. Like, there was actual, you know, stuff that happened for you to like want certain characters to end up with certain characters, and when they do, there's catharsis. And maybe that isn't enough to give it the rating I gave it, which is 4 stars, because I genuinely did enjoy it. I had fun. I wasn't mad. And will I read the second book? Yeah. I definitely plan on reading the second book. So the next 3 books are ones that I'm not going to spend too much time on because I did a reading vlog for them. And these 3 books were for the vlog of me reading books recommended by the booktube channel Paperback Dream. So for this, I read In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado, Shiver by Junji Ito, and Pentel by Daphne Arbach. I'll start with Pentel. This book was super fucking depressing. Like, literally, I thought this was going to be a horror book, and it was horrific beyond belief, but there's like no catharsis to be had at the end of this book. This book just leaves you with a state of doom and gloom. It was not a fun time, but it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. Next, I'll do Shiver, and this is a selection of short stories by manga legend Junji Ito, and it is a selection of his best stories specifically. The one that I loved the most would probably be The Long Dream. And my favorite character in all of the stories is Fuchi from the story Fashion Designer. The grossest story would have to be Greased Oil. Like, that was horrible. Like, I had to like skim through it because it was just so disgusting. Overall, really good. Some stories better than others, but I loved it. I am a huge Junji Ito fan now. So then the next one would be In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. And this is a book that is also an autobiography of a woman who had had to cope with an abusive relationship for a long time in her life. And it is just very devastating in many ways and scary. And this isn't a horror book. Like, this isn't a book with ghosts or demons, but this is a book with a very real kind of horror because you feel so scared for what she is going to go through, because early on in the book it gets really bad, and the fact that there are just so many more pages after how bad it gets, like really early on, it made me want to yell at the book to like, you know, just woman, like just get out of there, please. This book has so many interesting topics it talks about. It talks about manipulation, and gaslighting, and it just talks about why hurt people, you know, end up hurting people. There's like no way I can discuss how amazing this book is in this little video, but I did go in deeper in my vlog, so you can look at that, but I recommend just reading the book yourself because it is well worth the read. And then after all that, I read The Push by Ashley Audrain, and oh my gosh, I gave this book 5 stars. This book solidified my resolve to never have kids. Like, I knew I never wanted to have kids, but this book was just like a straight up fucking don't have them. And I was like, point made. So we follow a woman named Blythe, and she gives birth to this child named Violet, who is a child from hell. But throughout the story, the book gaslights you as a reader, and you really start to think about whether or not Blythe is really seeing all these horrible things, or if it's just a result of her sleep deprivation or stress or whatever she's going through. And she doubts herself constantly, and we doubt her constantly because she does kind of give us reason to doubt her. But overall, this is just such a phenomenal read, and the very last line of the book just gave me goosebumps for days. For a slow burn, this book moved really freaking fast, I can tell you that. So yeah, those are the books I read for June. I am sorry this took so fucking long, but I will try better next time, and I know I keep saying that, and I know I keep never doing it. And yeah, like and comment and subscribe, hit the bell so you know when I post shit. Follow me on my bookstagram at Mickey's Bookstagram. I hope to see you in future videos, but until then, take care. I lose myself